My sister, Amelia the golden child, was standing in the middle of her perfect party, surrounded by everyone who adored her. She had a champagne flute in one hand and my ex-boyfriend's hand in the other, a perfect smile plastered on her face. She had our family's praise, my ex, and a future so bright it was blinding. What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that her entire world was a house of cards. And I was about to light the match that would burn it all down in front of every single person she had ever fooled. Let me show you how we got here. In my family, you got one of two roles, handed out the day you were born. My older sister, Amelia, was the sun. I was the planet that silently orbited her, cleaning up the messes she left behind. She was the golden child, and she wore that title like it was her divine right. Every A- was framed, every mediocre painting was a masterpiece, and every minor promotion was an excuse for a lavish family dinner where she'd hold court. Our parents weren't just proud, they were the architects of her pedestal. They funded the chic, downtown apartment she couldn't afford and co-signed the loans for the luxury car she needed for her image. My role, it was different. I was the responsible one, the practical one. I got a sensible accounting degree, worked a quiet but steady job, and paid my bills on time. My wins were met with a polite nod, maybe an absent-minded "that's nice, dear," before the conversation always swung back to Amelia's latest triumph. I was the one pulling all-nighters to rewrite her business proposals, only to watch her get a standing ovation for her work. I was the one listening to our mother fret about Amelia's stress while I was juggling two jobs to save for a down payment. It wasn't even the attention that got to me. It was the fact that her success was somehow my responsibility, while my existence was just an afterthought. I'd accepted my place in the background of the Amelia show. But then there was Mark. Mark was mine. He wasn't part of the family script. We met through a friend far away from my family's gravitational pull. With him, I wasn't just Amelia's sister. I was just me. He saw my quiet strength as a virtue, not a flaw. He loved my dry humor and the way I could find logic in chaos. For 2 years, our relationship was my sanctuary. It was easy laughter and shared dreams. He was the one thing in my life that felt completely, totally mine. Of course, Amelia had to give her stamp of approval. The first time I brought him to a family dinner, she laid the charm on so thick it was suffocating. She was dazzling, asking him insightful questions about his work, laughing a little too loudly at his jokes, touching his arm a little too often. I saw it, but I told myself that was just Amelia being Amelia, the sun, demanding to be the center of any new solar system. I trusted Mark, and I trusted my sister. Because deep down, despite everything, I still believed there were some lines you just don't cross. That was my greatest mistake. That line was crossed on a Tuesday, our 2-year anniversary. I'd left work early, giddy with excitement. I was going to surprise Mark. I grabbed his favorite takeout, a bottle of the good wine, and practically floated to his apartment. I remember smiling to myself as I slid my key into the lock, picturing his face. The first thing I saw was Amelia's coat. The ridiculously expensive one Mom and Dad had bought her, tossed over a chair. Then her shoes kicked off by the door. A cold, sharp dread started creeping up my spine. The apartment was silent, but it was a heavy, charged silence. I walked toward the bedroom, my heart pounding in my ears. The door was cracked open. And through that crack, I saw them, my sister, my boyfriend. The wine bottle slipped from my hand and shattered, red wine pooling on the floor like blood. The sound made them jump apart, and the look on their faces wasn't guilt. It was annoyance that I had interrupted them. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. A strange, chilling calm washed over me. I just stared. Amelia spoke first, pulling a sheet around herself with a sigh of pure theatrical frustration. "Oh, my God," she said, rolling her eyes like I was a clumsy waitress. "You weren't supposed to be here." Mark just stared at the wall, a total coward. What is this? My voice was a flat, dead whisper. Amelia actually laughed, a short, ugly sound. What does it look like? Don't be so dramatic. It's not like you were married. That was the moment something inside me snapped. It wasn't my heart. It was the dam that held back years of being pushed aside, of being minimized, of being treated like a supporting character in my own damn life. She didn't just steal my boyfriend. She was devaluing my entire relationship, my feelings right to my face. Get out, I said. My voice had an edge of steel I didn't even know I had. Fine, she huffed, grabbing her clothes without a hint of remorse. As she brushed past me, she leaned in and whispered, her voice dripping with triumph, "He was always bored with you. I was just doing him a favor." I went home and let myself fall apart for exactly 24 hours. I felt it all. Then I got up, wiped my tears, and a new feeling started to grow in that hollow space. Rage, a cold, clear, patient rage. She hadn't just made a mistake. This was a hostile takeover. She saw something that made me happy, and she decided it should be hers. She truly believed she was untouchable, that her golden child status made her immune to consequences. She thought wrong. 2 months later, my social media feed blew up with the news. Amelia and Mark were engaged. A picture of them beaming, her hand showing off a gaudy diamond ring. Amelia's caption, "I said yes to the man who showed me what true love is." The hypocrisy was so shameless it was almost impressive. This was it. She wasn't just taking him. She was building her next perfect chapter on the rubble of my life. And she was throwing an engagement party for all our friends and family to celebrate her victory. A smile touched my lips for the first time in months, not a happy smile. The smile of a predator that has just been handed its prey on a silver platter. She was giving me the stage, the audience, and the perfect setting. And I was going to give her a show she would never forget. My grief hardened into purpose. I'm an accountant. My brain is wired to find discrepancies and follow paper trails. For the next 3 months, my sister became my full-time, off-the-books audit. The goal wasn't just to expose the affair. That was too small. I was going to dismantle the entire myth of Amelia. I was going to prove to everyone that her perfect life was a fraudulent enterprise. My quiet little apartment became a war room. The walls were covered in notes and timelines. My revenge would be a 3-act play, with the curtain rising at her engagement party. Act 1. Digital archaeology. Amelia's entitlement made her sloppy. She used the same simple password for everything: her dog's name and her birth year. It took me less than 10 minutes to get into her entire digital life. It was a goldmine of deceit. I started with the affair, compiling a complete timeline of timestamped texts and emails. Messages they sent while I was in the same room, messages they sent on my birthday. Messages where they openly mocked me, calling me the wallpaper. This was the emotional core of my presentation, but it was just the start. Act 2. Professional demolition. Amelia had just been promoted. Our parents wouldn't shut up about how she'd landed a massive new client all by herself. My digging told a different story. I found the emails between her and a young, talented intern named Chloe. I saw Chloe's brilliant original proposal, and then I saw Amelia's version, which was about 90% copy and paste. But the smoking gun was an email from Amelia to a friend bragging, "I told her the client hated her ideas and she should stick to getting coffee." She was so crushed, she didn't even want her name on it. Perfect. My blood ran cold. She hadn't just stolen credit. She actively sabotaged a young woman's career. I needed an ally. I found Chloe on LinkedIn. "I have information about the client pitch Amelia took from you," I wrote. "I think we can help each other." We met for coffee. She was scared at first, but when I showed her the email, her fear turned into a quiet fury that matched mine. She agreed to provide a written, notarized statement. She even had the original files, with metadata proving her authorship. This was no longer just my word against hers. Act 3. Financial ruin. This was my home turf. I knew our parents subsidized her lifestyle, but I had no idea how deep the rot went. Posing as her, I used her personal info to get into her bank and credit card accounts online. The picture was staggering. She had over $100,000 in high-interest credit card debt spread across a dozen cards. She was making minimum payments while dropping thousands a month on designer clothes and lavish trips. That perfect apartment. She was 3 months behind on rent and about to get an eviction notice. She was a financial time bomb, and Mark, the successful architect, was a co-signer on several of her worst cards. They weren't building a future. They were drowning in a shared swamp of debt and lies. I spent weeks putting it all into one devastating 10-minute video. It started with their sickeningly sweet social media photos. Then the music would cut, and the first text would appear on screen. She's so boring. Can't wait for you to come over. The video walked through every lie, the affair, Chloe's stolen proposal, a summary of her catastrophic finances, the eviction notice, and the co-signed debts with Mark's name circled in red. I even embedded Chloe's video testimony. The day of the party, I loaded the file onto a USB drive. The bomb was ready. The engagement party was exactly as nauseating as I expected. Held in the private room of some ridiculously expensive restaurant, it was filled with 100 of their friends and our family. Amelia was in her element, floating around in a white dress, the picture of innocence. My parents were glowing. I nursed a single glass of water, feeling like an actor waiting for my cue. Relatives kept coming up to me with pitying looks. "You'll find someone soon," they'd say. I just smiled. I'm fine, truly. I'm just so happy for them. The lie tasted like ass. After dinner, my father tapped his glass. He gave a teary speech about his brilliant, beautiful daughter and how she'd finally found a man worthy of her. Then, he turned to the crowd. "And now, I believe her sister has a few words she'd like to share." That was it, my cue. The room went quiet, all eyes on me. Amelia shot me a smug, triumphant little smile, as if my speech was her final victory. I walked to the front and took the microphone. My hands were perfectly steady. "Hello, everyone," I began, my eyes landing on Amelia. "I'm here to talk about my sister. Most of you know her as the golden child. The one with the perfect career, the perfect life, and now the perfect fiancé." I paused. Amelia has always been an inspiration. She taught me that if you want something, you should just take it, no matter who it hurts. Her smile flickered. She also taught me the importance of a good story. I continued, pulling the USB from my pocket. And tonight, I want to share a story about my sister's incredible ability to build a perfect life. I put together a little tribute video. Before anyone could stop me, I walked to the big projector screen, plugged in the drive, and hit play. The first few seconds were happy photos of Amelia and Mark, murmurs of approval. Then, the music screeched to a halt, the screen went black, and a text message appeared in giant white letters. From Mark to Amelia, "God, she's so boring. I can't wait for you to come over after she leaves. Date, 2 weeks before our breakup." A collective gasp sucked the air out of the room. Amelia's face went corpse white. Mark looked like he'd been punched. And it kept going, text after text, then the side-by-side of the proposals. Then Chloe's face appeared on screen, calmly detailing how Amelia stole her work. I saw Amelia's boss in the corner, his jaw hanging open. Then, the finale, the credit card statements, one after another. The eviction notice, and finally, the list of co-signed debts with Mark's name circled in red. The room was dead silent. I turned to face my sister. Her perfect mask had shattered. Underneath was something ugly and terrified. Tears streamed down her face, not of remorse, but of a queen watching her castle turn to dust. "Stop it," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Please, I leaned into the microphone. "Stop what, Amelia?" I asked, my voice completely flat. "Stop telling the truth. I thought that was your specialty, not mine." She let out a choked sob and ran from the room. Mark didn't move. My father was staring at me in horror. My mother was openly weeping. The party was over. The myth was dead. I had burned her world to the ground, and it was even more satisfying than I had dreamed. The aftermath was chaos. My parents cornered me, furious. "How could you do something so cruel?" My father demanded. "Cruel?" I actually laughed. "She betrayed me, stole from a coworker, and lied to every single person in this room for years. But I'm the cruel one for flipping on the lights." You didn't care what she did. You only care that people found out. For the first time in my life, they had nothing to say. They just stared, finally seeing the steel in my spine they'd always mistaken for weakness. I told them their blindness had enabled her, that they were co-authors of the whole lie. Then I walked away. The fallout was swift and absolute. Amelia's boss fired her the next day. The engagement was obviously over. Mark, disgraced and tied to her financial ruin, just vanished. When my parents finally cut her off financially, Amelia's world imploded. She was evicted, her fair-weather friends scattered. She had built her life on the admiration of others, and when that was gone, there was nothing left. I didn't stick around to watch. I packed my things, sold my small house, and moved across the country. I took a job in a city where no one knew my name. I didn't run away. I started over on my own terms in a place with no ghosts. The revenge was never really about Mark. I realized that the second I saw his pathetic face at the party, it was about reclaiming my own story. Amelia tried to write me out as a footnote, so I rewrote the whole book and cast her as the villain she truly was. It wasn't just about destroying her life. It was about taking back the pieces of mine they had all chipped away over the years. I had to burn it all down to build something new. And in the quiet of my new life, I finally found peace, a peace born not of forgiveness, but of righteous, well-executed justice. So that's my story. Not a pretty one, but it's mine. What would you have done? Would you have sought revenge or just walked away? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoy stories about justice being served, no matter the cost, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Standing up for myself was the hardest thing I've ever done, but in the end, it was the only thing that set me free, and that's a truth worth fighting for.